Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name is Stuart, and today's video we're going to be discussing Blood Red Skies from Warlord Games again. A few months back I did a first few exploratory videos and painting tutorials. In one of those I unboxed and talked about the Midway starter set. Based on that, Paul Sawyer from Warlord Games very kindly offered to send me a couple of aces for which to expand the two forces that are in the box, and today we're going to unbox these two. Now, if you're watching this video having not been aware of Blood Red Skies before, I will post a link to the playlist in the channel now. There's a couple of other videos there that give a little bit of introduction to the game and what it's about, but very briefly, it's by Warlord Games. It's called Blood Red Skies, and it's a 1 to 200th World War II air combat game. Very, very simple mechanics and a good thing to get out and play relatively shortly. However, what I'm doing today is giving a very, very quick look at these two boxes that Warlord Games have very kindly sent me. So I'll be completely clear, I haven't purchased these myself. They have been sent to me by a review from Warlord Games. Warlord Games are always very open and tell me to say whatever I like, but do bear that in mind for complete disclosure. Now, the idea was to pair them up with the starter set for a painting video, but I thought I really wanted to do a little unboxing for them first to give you a little bit of a teaser. So the starter set is set in Midway, so Pacific Theatre, and these two pilots are from that theatre. Now, historically, whether they would have fought each other, I don't know. That's not what this is about, but it's about having two planes that generally fit in that for a nice little couple of videos to demonstrate how I paint them. But let's have the miniatures first. So we've got US pilot Dick Best, and we've got Japanese ace pilot Joshi Naga. I've probably pronounced that wrong, but never mind. So let's have a first look at the Dick Best model. So you get these plain reinforcement boxes for these, and inside you have the movable flight stand, and those familiar with the game will know that the angle of the flight stick here determines where you are in terms of altitude and dive and things like that. And we have a little pack of cards and stickers, all transfers with these. Sometimes you get stickers, sometimes you get decals. These are proper decals, which is great to see. You have a little card for Dick Best himself, which tells you his skills and etc, and a little bit of a sort of a write-up on him there. It's very small, you probably won't be able to see that on the camera. We have some cards for playing the game, so Call Under Fire, ace skill, Pickle Barrel, ace skill. You have the card templates that go underneath these, or on the flight stand itself, and a couple of tokens. And you also have the plane that he's flying in, so the SDB-3 Dauntless dive bomber, and then there's a little write-up on the back of the card as well, which tells you all about the aircraft. So it's a really neat, cute little box there, with even if you're new to this sort of period of history. I'm not new to World War II, but I don't know an awful lot about air combat, so I am not a kind of plane head, a petrol head when it comes to planes and things, so I don't know this stuff. So I actually quite like these little write-ups. I think they're a really nice introduction. So if you were coming to the period completely new, just thought you wanted to give it a go, these would give you all you need to get stuck in, and then it's things like that that really kind of draw people into the period, and they end up picking up books and watching documentaries and all kinds. Let's have a little look at the first miniature. So this is the Dauntless plane. And what we have here is a little resin model itself. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. So I've zoomed in a little bit, so we got a slightly closer look. So these are, I believe, Cyocast. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's a spun resin, and they work quite well for these little planes. They can be a little bit tricky to clean up sometimes, but you have very few mold lines on the side of these. So from the previous I've had of these, they tend to clean up quite nicely. It's a relatively clean sculpt. A little bit to clean up under here, but nothing that looks scary to me at all, and very cute and simple to paint. So there's not an awful lot to show in that sense. What I will do is grab my Citadel mold remover tool and see how easy these mold lines come off, and they're coming off fairly easily, so there's not going to be any horrors there. Sometimes when you scrape away at these kind of resin miniatures, they can be a little bit tricky to get a nice clean finish. But my experience with some of them at this size for this range, they don't seem to have any issues, and once painted up they look fantastic. Now moving on to the Japanese ace pilot Joshi Naga. Again, apologies for the pronunciation if I've done it wrong. And I expect we will see a similar thing. So we have the flight stand, which directs, as I've mentioned before. We have a little baggie with cards in as well. And in those we will find a set of decals, which is exactly what we want. A couple of skill cards, so we've got True Grit, Fearless. We've got a little card relating to the pilot himself with, again, a nice little write-up on the back. A vulnerable aircraft trait, the counters and the base template marker at the bottom, and also the card about the plane itself, which is a B5N Kate. And again, on the back you've got that nice little write-up. Very, very short, but you can obviously go away and find out even more about them. But again, most importantly, we have the toys, the models, the bits that we buy these things for. So let's zoom in and have a little closer look at this one. And much like the first one, we have a pretty clean miniature. There's a mould line all the way around the edge, as you would expect, and the only slightly larger notch is that little area there, which I think can be fairly easily removed with a modeler knife and filed. And again, let's test the mould line at the edge, and it does come off with ease. No major issues there at all, which you can sometimes get with the mealy nature of Cyocast. I know it's a pretty controversial topic at times, and I know they've been working on a new harder formulation. I believe this is the standard formulation, but I can't tell. I don't think it's written anywhere on the packages. But either way, for these miniatures, the material works absolutely fine in my opinion. I know they won't be to everyone's taste, but these are pretty cool. So what are my overall thoughts? I quite like these boxes. I think they're quite rounded little cute additions to the core games, or to add to your forces. In terms of cost effectiveness, you're probably not getting quite as much for your money versus the price for a total starter set. These boxes retail at £13.50, which for one very small plane and a few bits of card, I know some people will question the price. In terms of it not being a big ticket item, I quite like that as well, and it's quite nice just to invest a small amount of money. And if you're collecting just one force, adding a little bit of character by adding a famous pilot is quite a cool thing to do, and they're still not, you know, ridiculously expensive. I know there'll be people out there who will buy those individual planes from different manufacturers, or just use existing planes from the starter sets, say that this pilot is this pilot. They're not too worried about the different profiles and things, which is fine. It all depends how you want to play the game. But for me, I quite like adding a little bit of character, and adding these two aces to the starter set is a really cool and fun way of doing it. Now, the next project, as I've already mentioned, will be to do a bit of a painting video where I paint the two forces in the Midway starter set, adding the two aces, ready for a bit of a fun game or so. Whether that goes on the channel or not, I'm not so sure, but the painting definitely will. I want to find a way of using some techniques that you could do very, very quickly with a normal brush, but then also if you have an airbrush and want to do it that way, you can. So I'll make the video a little bit of a dual explanation of two ways of doing it, and hopefully not to make it too confusing. But we'll see how that goes when we get there. Thank you very much for watching this little review of those planes. As I said, I think they're a bit of fun and a bit cool. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. Do look out for the other videos on the channel if you are interested in this game. I linked those earlier on, so you should be able to find those in the links at the side of the video. And do check out the other things on the channel if you're new and have stumbled across it. But thank you very much for taking the time to watch. Take care, and I will catch you soon.